I recently turned 29. Going into this last year before 30 has led me to do a lot of reflecting about just how incredibly exciting, extremely rewarding, and insanely frustrating this past decade of life has been. Now, I'm a firm believer that there is no substitute for personal experience, but I've decided to create this channel to serve as something of a guide as you navigate your own turbulent 20s. As an only child growing up in suburban central Texas, I was often incredibly bored. Now, I played sports and read books and had other hobbies, sure, but the thing that stands out most is sitting at home, watching television, just being bored out of my mind. I was convinced that this boredom was a product of the place, of living in central Texas. There were no mountains, there was no ocean nearby. I was sure that when I got the opportunity to move away, I would find life to be a lot more rewarding. So when it came time to go to university, I did stay in state for those in-state tuition rates, but I went about as far away as I possibly could, choosing a school that was a 6-hour drive from my hometown. But even on the exotic plains of West Texas, I felt like I was just kind of drifting through time. When I finished school, I moved to Denver, Colorado, which had always been a dream of mine. I'd grown up going to Colorado for spring break on these ski trips, and I'd always sort of fantasized about living there and being able to go to the mountains all the time. But the reality was that when the mountains were in my own backyard, I started taking them for granted. I didn't go very often, and I also overestimated the importance of friendships and community. It was this dissatisfaction and a belief that the grass would be greener somewhere else that drove me to spend significant time in South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, Alaska, France, Spain, the Czech Republic, Hungary, back to Spain, and most recently back to Prague, which I now call home. And while this has been an extremely exciting ride, it's been a wild ride. I've learned a lot about different cultures, I've learned a lot about myself, and I certainly don't regret making any of these choices. I have come to realize that in moving so often, in blaming the place for your dissatisfaction, you're only doing yourself a disservice. You're really creating this internal fantasy that is impossible to fulfill. Look, I've been bored in Barcelona, one of the most incredible cities in the world. But the reality is, no matter where you are, it's how you're living your life, the things that you're actually doing on a daily basis that most matter. Also, when you move so often, it's very difficult to establish a community or a healthy social life. And these are things that I took for granted when I was in my early and even mid-20s. After 5+ years of constant moving, it was only recently that I realized that this monotony that I feared from living a dull, average 9-to-5 life had actually been chasing me the whole time. In constantly moving and starting over, I had found and created a monotony of my own. Now look, I certainly don't want to discourage anyone from taking the leap, from moving away from their hometown to a place that interests them, especially somewhere international. However, I want you to consider why you want to make that move, and just how different your life is going to be, the things that you want to change, and how you will enact those changes with daily actions. Paradise is temporary. In my experience, after 2 or 3 weeks, the beauty and initial excitement of a place begins to wear off, and it just becomes your daily setting. And no matter if you're in Hawaii or New York City, after a while, you'll begin to take things for granted. So before you take that leap, before you decide that you're done with a place and you're moving on, it's definitely worth considering. Why will you move to the next place? How will that place be different? And how can you set in place a specific course of action to invest in that experience, to invest in your life, and get the most out of what is an extremely exciting time to be alive? If you have any questions, please do leave them in the comment section down below. And as this is a brand new channel, please do subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.